I was parked 3 blocks away from the hotel. The rental car's engine was off, the windows slightly cracked, and the night pressed in from all sides. The GPS tracker I had slipped into Rachel's car pinged again. She hadn't moved. Still at the Hampton Inn off I-35, room 218, same room as last week. I stared at the glowing screen on my phone. 10:47 p.m. She told me she was meeting a coworker for dinner, again. She'd been working late 3 nights this week. Funny how she suddenly cared so much about company strategy meetings, when just a few months ago, she could barely stay awake during Zoom calls. I knew. I'd known for a while. The signs were there. Emotional distance, phone turned face down, new lingerie with tags I'd never seen again. But suspicions aren't facts, and Rachel was always good with words. She could lie and smile at the same time. So I got tired of guessing. I bought a GPS tracker, then a voice-activated recorder. I read forums, watched videos, even created a burner email to back up recordings. It felt insane, but being gaslit, that was worse. The first time I listened to the recorder from her car, my stomach turned. It was just breathing, then laughter, then low voices. A man's. Heron. Then a moan. Hers again. I paused it. I couldn't even breathe. I replayed it twice that night. She never mentioned anything the next morning. Now, here I was again. Watching. Waiting. I wasn't going to burst in. I wasn't going to throw punches. This wasn't a movie. I just needed the last nail in the coffin. The voice recorder I'd hidden in the lining of her purse would pick up everything. I waited another hour. Then I drove home. Rachel came in at 1:18 a.m. She walked softly, probably thinking I was asleep. I was sitting in the dark, in the armchair by the window. She flicked on the light and flinched when she saw me. "Oh my God, Jason, you scared me." I didn't respond. She set down her bag slowly. "I told you I was going out with Karen." I just nodded. Then I stood up and walked past her into the bedroom. The silence must have weighed on her because she followed, her voice more defensive now. "What's with the attitude?" I picked up my phone from the nightstand, tapped a file, hit play. The sound filled the room, her voice, a man's voice, a zipper, moaning. Rachel froze. For a second, I thought she might faint. Then she lunged for the phone, but I pulled it away. "Room 218, I said quietly. "Third time in 2 weeks. She backed away like I'd hit her. "Jason, I can explain." I raised a hand, not to strike, just to stop the noise. I didn't want to hear her excuses. "I don't want explanations," I said. "I just want the truth." She collapsed onto the bed and started crying. Big, theatrical sobs that would have moved me once. Not now. "How long?" I asked. Rachel didn't answer, just shook her head. "Who is he?" "Someone from work," she finally muttered. It didn't mean anything. "It never does," I cut in, "until it ruins everything." We didn't sleep that night. She begged, she promised, she cursed herself. She said she still loved me. I watched her talk, cry, break down, and I felt nothing. I had grieved already, quietly, in parking lots, in silence, in bed while she showered off another man. I told her she could stay in the guest room, that I needed space, that I'd think. But the truth was, I had already made my decision. The next morning, I packed a bag and left. Before I walked out, I turned to her one last time. "The woman I married, she's gone. I don't know who you are anymore." Rachel reached for me, eyes wild. "Please, Jason, please don't go. We can fix this." I looked at her, really looked, and all I saw was a stranger in my wife's body. "There's no fixing this," I said. "You killed us the moment you decided he was worth more than the truth." Then I closed the door behind me. I moved into a small apartment on the east side of Austin. It was furnished in the way all temporary places are, beige, bland, lifeless. Just enough to sit, sleep, and stare at the wall. The first few nights were quiet. Too quiet. No footsteps in the hallway, no shower running, no clink of wine glasses in the sink. Only the hum of the refrigerator. I had nowhere to be. I called in sick to work, said it was the flu. They didn't push. I think my voice said more than I meant it to. Rachel texted that first morning. "Rachel, please just talk to me." "Rachel, I didn't mean for any of this." "Rachel, can we just meet?" Once. I turned my phone face down and didn't touch it for the rest of the day. On day 3, I finally called my brother, David. He was the only person I trusted to not give me advice unless I asked. I kept it simple. She cheated. I caught her. I left. There was a long pause. Then, "Where are you?" "East Side. Some rental I found online." "I'll come by after work." He brought tacos and a 6-pack. We didn't talk about Rachel. We talked about the Cowboys, about Dad's old truck, about stupid things we did in high school. At the end of the night, he stood at the door and said, "You don't have to go through this alone, man." I nodded. But the truth was, I felt more alone than I ever had. The nights were the worst. Not because I missed her, that would have made sense, but because the betrayal echoed in everything. Every memory felt poisoned. Sunday mornings, cooking breakfast in pajamas. Was she already thinking about him then? The vacation in Oregon. Did she text him while I napped in the hammock? The night she cried and told me she wanted a baby? Was that before or after the affair started? I replayed everything like a detective at a cold crime scene, looking for missed clues, for cracks I hadn't seen, but all I saw was my own blindness. She started calling after a week. I never picked up. Her voicemails were long, rambling, desperate. "Jason, please, I know I messed up, but I love you. I need you. I'll quit my job. I'll do therapy, anything. I don't even know why I did it. I felt lost. But it's over. It's been over. He means nothing to me." She cried. She begged. Once, she screamed. Another time, she was calm. "I'm not giving up on us. You're my husband. I know you still love me." And that's what made it worse, because part of me did. Or maybe I just missed who I thought she was. I went back to the house once. She was at work. I still had my key. I needed some clothes, my passport, some documents. The place looked the same, but it felt hollow. The scent of her perfume still hung in the bedroom. Her coffee mug was on the kitchen counter. My picture was still on the dresser, us at our wedding, smiling like idiots. I stared at that frame for a long time. Then I put it face down. Later that week, Rachel emailed me a long letter. She said she understood why I was silent, that she respected my space, but that she hoped one day we could talk, really talk, not about the affair, about us. She talked about memories, about our first date, our inside jokes, the time we danced in the rain in New Orleans. "I know I destroyed the foundation," she wrote, "but I'm still standing here. I'll keep standing here. I won't run from what I did." It wasn't a bad letter. It was actually honest. And for a moment, I almost replied. But I didn't, because I knew what would happen. We'd talk, she'd cry, I'd cry, we'd maybe hug, maybe even kiss, and then what? I'd lie awake next to her every night, wondering if she was dreaming of him. I'd flinch every time her phone buzzed. I'd question every smile, every late meeting, every pause in her speech. I wasn't going back to that. I closed the laptop. I never replied. I went back to work after 2 weeks. Nobody asked questions, at least not directly. My boss gave me a tight-lipped nod. One of the junior analysts, Kyle, brought me coffee and said, "Good to see you, man." That was it. But people noticed I wasn't the same. Meetings blurred together, emails piled up. I stared at spreadsheets and forgot what I was calculating. I used to be sharp, the guy who solved problems in 3 steps. Now, I felt like a passenger in my own body. Even the office felt different. Every hallway felt too long, every conversation too loud. I avoided eye contact. I took the stairs just to avoid running into anyone at the elevator. One day, my coworker Jenna, who sat 3 desks down, stopped me in the break room. She handed me a granola bar and said gently, "You look like you haven't eaten today." I hadn't. "Thanks," I muttered. She didn't press, just said, "You're not alone, okay?" and walked out. I stood there for a full minute, holding that granola bar like it might collapse in my hand. Nights were still hard. I didn't cry. I couldn't. But there was a hollow ache in my chest that never went away. I'd lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, wondering how I got here. How we went from lazy Sunday cuddles to voice recordings in a purse. The trust was gone. And without trust, love is just a memory. Rachel kept sending emails. Sometimes short. "I miss you." Sometimes long, telling me about therapy sessions, apologies to her parents, even the fact she'd started journaling. It was like she was rebuilding herself. And part of me admired it. But the bigger part wondered why she couldn't do any of that before she destroyed what we had. I didn't reply. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because there was nothing left to say. One night, I walked downtown by myself. Ended up sitting on a bench near Lady Bird Lake. I watched the reflections shimmer on the water. Couples walked by, holding hands, laughing. One girl kissed her boyfriend's cheek, and he blushed. I used to be that guy. Now I was the ghost, watching from the shadows. My phone buzzed. Another message from Rachel. I wish I could take it all back. I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted the entire thread. A few minutes later, I blocked her number. Not out of hatred, but because I needed silence more than I needed closure. And that's when it hit me. I didn't want her back. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to understand her reasons. I just wanted peace. It was the first time in weeks I felt the faintest flicker of it. I sat on that bench until the city went quiet. Then I walked home. A few weeks passed. I stopped counting. There was no dramatic turning point, just small changes. I started running again. Short, shaky runs in the mornings, when the streets were still wet and empty. I went back to cooking instead of ordering takeout. I rewatched old movies without thinking about who used to sit beside me during them. It wasn't healing, it was surviving. But that was enough for now. One day I ran into Karen, Rachel's best friend. It was at the grocery store, of all places. I was reaching for cereal when I heard, "Jason?" I turned. She looked awkward, thin smile, nervous hands. She hadn't expected to see me. Probably didn't want to. "Hey," I said. "God, you look good, considering." "Considering," I echoed. My tone was flat. She glanced around like she didn't want to be seen with me. Then she leaned in and said, "I just want you to know, I had no idea about what Rachel was doing." I believed her. Karen had always been blunt, not good at keeping secrets. She told me everything after you left, she went on. She's really not okay, Jason. She wasn't okay when she was cheating either. Karen sighed. I'm not taking sides. I miss you guys. You were like family. We're not a you guys anymore. She looked sad but nodded. If you ever want to talk or just not talk, I'm around. I nodded politely, paid for my groceries, and left. I didn't look back. That night, I thought a lot about what she said. Rachel wasn't okay. Neither was I. But the difference was, I wasn't pretending to be. I wasn't trying to rush the pain or paint over it with grand gestures. I was sitting in it, letting it burn, and in a strange way, that made me feel stronger. I started journaling. Not long, poetic entries, just scattered thoughts, half sentences, feelings I couldn't say out loud. She is no longer mine, but the betrayal is still in my house. I can't listen to our wedding song without tasting metal. Forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation. I can forgive and still walk away. It helped, not a lot, but enough to make the nights quieter. One morning, I woke up and didn't think of her immediately. That was new. I poured coffee, looked out the window, watched a bird hop along the sidewalk. Then I laughed, because I realized I had a moment of peace. Real peace. I knew it wouldn't last all day, but it was a start. That same afternoon, Rachel emailed again. The subject line was, "Final message, I promise." It was long. She wrote about what she was learning in therapy, about how she'd finally admitted the affair to her parents, and they were devastated. She said she wasn't trying to win me back anymore, just wanted to say goodbye properly. She thanked me for loving her, for being good, for seeing her when she couldn't see herself. I broke something beautiful, she wrote, and I live with that now. I just hope you don't carry it with you forever. It didn't make me cry, but it made me sit still for a long time. And then I wrote something back, only one line. Thank you for finally being honest. I hit send, and then I blocked her for the last time. That night, I slept through till morning. No dreams, just silence. The days rolled into each other after that. I wasn't depressed, not anymore. Just quiet, settled. My world had shrunk to fit what I could carry. A job, a gym routine, a few meals I actually bothered to cook. No grand ambitions, no deep conversations, just simplicity. And still, it felt like more than I'd had in months. One Saturday morning, I ran into David again. He showed up with coffee and a stupid grin. "You're alive," he said. "That's something." "Barely," I joked, and he laughed like it was the best line he'd heard all week. We sat on the patio, watching squirrels fight over a slice of bread. For a moment, it felt like childhood again. Two brothers, wasting time, not thinking about anything heavy. Then he asked, "You ever gonna date again?" I shrugged. I can't even imagine letting someone that close. "Yeah," he nodded. "But maybe one day?" Maybe. That was the most honest answer I had. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. Not email, real paper, handwritten, no return address. It was from Rachel. I opened it slowly. The handwriting was familiar. It hit me like a scent from childhood. Every curve of the letters pulled memories from somewhere I'd buried. She didn't ask for anything this time. She just wrote about the weather, about how she was redecorating the living room, about how quiet the house felt without me. "I still catch myself making coffee for two," she wrote. "Then I sit down with both cups and cry." She talked about guilt, about the moments it hit her hardest, like when she heard our song on the radio or saw someone wearing my cologne at the grocery store. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," she said, "but I hope you find peace." I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. I didn't tear it up. I didn't respond. I just kept it. Not because I missed her, but because it was real. And real things, even painful ones, sometimes deserve to be remembered. Life didn't magically get better. There was no grand epiphany, just days. Some better than others. I went to therapy. I told my story. I talked about trust, betrayal, anger, numbness. I talked about Rachel, about myself, about the cracks that had existed before the affair. It helped, slowly. Not because it changed the past, but because it stopped the past from owning me. One day, my therapist said, "What does healing look like to you?" I thought for a long time. And then I said, "It looks like waking up and not feeling ashamed for loving someone who hurt me." He nodded. "That's a good place to start." I started reading again. Fiction mostly. Stories with broken people trying to put themselves back together. I underlined sentences that made me feel seen. I went hiking. I took photos. I even adopted a dog, a lazy old retriever named Max, who preferred sleeping to walking. We were a good match. I stopped talking about Rachel. Not because I was pretending it didn't happen, but because it wasn't the most important part of me anymore. Some scars don't fade, but they stop hurting. I was learning to live with that, not move on, not forget. Just live. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. It had been almost a year. A year since I sat in that dark room playing a recording I never wanted to hear. A year since I packed a bag and walked away from the life I thought was forever. I was different now. Not healed, maybe not whole, but real. There was a quiet to my life I'd never known before. Not loneliness, just stillness. And in that stillness, I found something I didn't expect, gratitude, not for the betrayal, but for what it forced me to see. I had spent years thinking love was enough. That if you were loyal, patient, kind, that would protect you. That being a good husband guaranteed safety. But life isn't fair like that. People are messy, they lie, they run, they break what they don't know how to fix. And still, I wouldn't take it back. Because pain is a teacher. And mine taught me what I'd ignored for too long. I matter too. Sometimes I walk past couples in the park and wonder what secrets they carry. Sometimes I see a woman who looks like Rachel from behind. My chest tightens for a moment. Then it passes. Other times, I think about reaching out, not to her, but to someone new. Maybe one day. Not because I need someone, but because I've learned how to be alone without being empty. One rainy evening, I found myself driving past the old house. The porch light was on. The tree we planted in our first year together was taller now, branches reaching for the sky like they believed in something. I didn't stop, didn't turn around, just kept driving, because I wasn't looking for ghosts anymore. I was headed home. Some stories don't get a happy ending, they just end. But if you're lucky, you get something better, a new beginning. And that's where I am now. At the beginning. If this story moved you, if it felt familiar, or if it gave you something to hold on to, give it a like. Maybe subscribe. Because sometimes the hardest stories to hear are the ones we need the most. And if you're still here, you're not alone. We keep going.